Unplugged and Unplugged. And then that's Benjamin White, by the way. My name is Sarah Stout, and this is my 8th year as a teacher librarian for Mason City Community School District. Despite my 8th year, this is my first year as K-12 for 8 buildings in our district. And you can contact me at my email. Also, give me shout outs on Twitter at Sarah Stout.
My name is Alyssa Calhoun. I am the teacher librarian at Prairie Hill, which is part of the College Community School District in Cedar Rapids. This is me and some of my kids. I gotta toss a picture of them in there. Don't mind that we're eating donuts in the library. My contact info is up there as well.
Yeah, and kind of as a side note, how we all got connected. I obviously worked with Sarah, but then Sarah was when we got introduced to Alyssa because we did some Skyping back and forth between our classes. So that's kind of how we all got connected. But today's session, this is what we're looking at. Our biggest is just to kind of define what coding is. Raise your hand if you've ever done coding before. Yeah. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of the code.org website. Perfect.
How many of y'all are like K5, K4, K5? How many of y'all are like middle school, high school? Okay, so I got a mix of both. Good.
Yep. So the other thing we're going to look at is actually give you a little time. Raise your hand if you've actually played around with the code.org website. Okay, perfect. Raise your hand if you've played around with some of the unplugged activities on there. Okay, that's why I wanted to make sure I pointed out, because a lot of people, when they see the code.org website, they think it's just all the online stuff. But again, if you're in a district, which I've had experience with this before, if you're in a district that doesn't have a lot of technology access, or say like your internet isn't the greatest, they also have an unplugged section, which can let you do the same coding activities, but without the use of the computer. So I want to give you that access to kind of see. But then we're also going to talk about some of the other things that we've all done in our classrooms together. So
I have to give a shout out to Dr. Ben Schaefer. On Sunday, he had a code.org workshop. I do know that he's bringing it back across the state, and it's free. It is worth your time. It is a must-go-see event. Actually, the inspiration behind this presentation is a lot from Dr. Ben Schaefer. And there's a picture of him right there. Last spring, I attended his workshop. It is so worth it. Worth your money, everything. I can't brag enough about it.
And these are actually hosted at all the AEAs around the state right now, and they're actually free. So your district just has to get you some.
You get a free notebook, and it's this thick. You can sign up for some free materials with it. Just an excellent presentation, not a dull moment.
and they go more in depth into the code.org stuff than what we're going to be doing, but we just want to make sure we gave you some access to all the different things on there. So, but with that, again, we'll just show this is really quick, but this kind of gave us the idea for why.
Talk about what we mean when we say computer science.
Got it. We can come back to that. Just load it.
In your free time.
We'll come back to
Yeah,
that.
we'll come back.
So here's some action, how we have actually done this in our
Yeah.
building. So
This is Sarah's.
All right, so last November, I met with Principal Tom Novotny, Lincoln Intermediate, and I said, I have learned a little bit about coding and I actually want to implement it. And what I love about Tom Novotny is he is such an out-of-the-box thinker, and I said, how can we implement it? And he goes, Code Cafe, and I'm like, ooh, tell me more. And so he said, let's break the rules of you can't have the computers around your food, let's bring the Chromebooks, the iPads, let's have a sign up every day, and let's have the kids code all during the lunch period. Well, the first day, the attendance was like, iffy. I mean, it was a decent turnout, but I had girls and guys were like, I don't know, this is kind of nerdy, I'm not sure about this, never heard of it. By Friday, our attendance increased. People were throughout the day going, how do I be a part of that? And so it was really neat to see it evolve over the week. And I'm excited to bring Code Cafe back to Lincoln this year. And being on K-12, I'm looking to make it district-wide this year. And another shout out to Lincoln Intermediate is they are big into STEAM. Just last year, they won a STEAM award across the nation at FETC. They were acknowledged as the top middle school STEAM in the nation. And so STEAM night we have in February, and I said, ooh, let's have a STEAM session on coding. And so we have parents with their kids come in and they learn how to code. One parent is already a computer programmer, and he was blown away at this opportunity that kids are getting now at a younger age. My favorites throughout that whole Code Cafe was Frozen. I know it's been years since Frozen came out, but it is still a hit. And so that one was a hit. Codeable. I got addicted to the point where I'm supposed to be managing kids and I'm on the iPad doing Codeable, and I see a kid raise their hand, oh, that's right, I'm supposed to pay attention to the kid and not do my own Codeable. And another one that was a hit that I also like is Scratch. That allows a little bit more creativity, and the kids get to have more of a voice in that one. Some other great apps that I'm sure will go more in depth in this rest of the presentation is Tinker was another one used, Scratch Junior, CargoBot, Fix the Factory, Code Academy. All of those were used at Code Cafe and at Lincoln Steam Night.
So now taking it into my classroom, mine wasn't nearly as big as hers because I didn't have all the resources that she had. But what I did, I kind of made my own little Code Cafe in my room. And one of the big ones that we talked about, and this, I put this in my resources at the end, but one of the big ones was Code Combat, which again, if you have, I have both boys and girls, but especially the boys who love the games like Zelda or any action games like that. That's basically what Code Combat is, as you can kind of see right here. This was their favorite activity for our stations that we did in the classroom. Like I'd have guided reading, and then I'd have a section where people would go work on writing, work on math, and then also would have a coding section. So, but the one that they loved the most was Code Combat, because what you do, again, it's just, and it's super simple if you've ever played the game of Zelda. It's, you're taking this guy and you're trying to fight off all these evil monsters, save the princess, and get a prize at the end. So, might seem super simple, but again, the kids loved it, because again, it takes that computer aspect. What they're doing is they're programming the character to move through the levels, to take down the bad guys, but they're also, in the same time, learning how to program the character using HTML and Java. So again, the fun part about it afterwards was the kids were all talking to me later, talking in HTML, saying, oh, I need to do this, giving me the HTML code. And then I had other teachers walking by saying, what did he just say? I was like, it's code talk. It's kind of top secret here. So, that's just a joke. But the other big one that we did is Codeable. And this is one that I actually got lucky. I won a free subscription for my whole class this year to use Codeable. But again, raise your hand if you've ever used Codeable. Okay. It's basically, it's kind of that same concept of what I was saying with Code Combat. But again, it's a free website that you can do, but you can also, they have a paid subscription that gives you a little bit more, which I got lucky and won the subscription. But again, it's not that much. But the app is also free, and if you download on the iPads. But basically, it's another puzzle activity where the kids try and figure out how to take, they have these little aliens called Smeeboards, which the kids love, especially at the elementary level. They're like, I'm a Smeeboard! And then trying to go on to the next level, they're trying to program that little alien guy to go through, get the treasure, and then every single time to go, if you've gone to any of Michael Matera's speeches, he was talking about one of the things you have to add in when you're talking about gamification is the leveling up aspect. So that's what the characters get to do So all my girls really loved it when they got to the sparkly level. So all of their speedboards were all sparkly. But anyways, the other one, which you'll be able to talk more about.
Take it away.
Okay, do you want to talk about what you did with Sphero first?
Me, I don't know.
I mean, have any of y'all played with the Sphero ball before?
Yes.
Did any of y'all go see these two kids here? These are my two kids. They were presenting on their little Sphero project yesterday during the purple ribbon winning time. So we used this little app here. This is the weirdest thing, and I don't get why they do this, but this little whale app is called Tickle. And Tickle is a programming app that looks almost, I mean, this is what it looks like. So it looks a lot like Scratch. So it's drag and drop. It's pretty simple, but it can do a lot of different things. So there's our two little guys that had programmed their Sphero ball to do some maze things. And where this kind of all started, oh, this is not flip anymore. We did an after-school coding club at our school. We opened it to all of our 3rd and 4th grade. We let whoever wanted to do it be part of it. We started after Christmas break and we went until spring break, so it was about 8 weeks. We met every Wednesday after school, and you can see here we did like a little lesson at first, and then the kids would break off and they would have their own computer and they would be doing some programming. We used Scratch primarily. How many of y'all have used Scratch before? Okay. These kids, like I said, all 3rd and 4th graders, we started out using the tutorials in Scratch. It literally tells you step by step how to do the program. Some of your kids who haven't done programming before, that linear step by step by step is kind of hard for them. And that's why when we were talking about the code.org resources, some of those unplugged activities really help them see that first you have to move forward and you can only move one step at a time. Then you have to move forward again. Then you have to turn right. Then you have to move forward. So those are really good to do before you even get into here. And this just tells how to get to those. If you actually have to go into create a new project, and then there's a little question mark, and it gives them the step-by-step guides to do all of those 7 different activities there. And it's really good for kids to start with that so that they can see that they can create and finish something. Sometimes when you're learning a new tool, especially one like Scratch that has so many different things, it can just feel overwhelming. I took like a whole college course about how to use Scratch, and that was me as an adult. So for kids, they can use it, but the idea that there's all these buttons and all these different options, having something they can actually finish is really important so that they can see that they can do it to get used to that tool. Here's kind of our little matrix that we made. So after they had done some of those tutorials, we gave them some different options to do inside of Scratch. And that just kind of guided the students in what to do. They were kind of, it doesn't matter what you put in there, just giving them something to work towards can really make a difference. And they're fun for adults too. Like Sarah said, we were playing and trying to finish all of those also. Then we did a Science Week celebration in April for Earth Day. We just took the whole week and we celebrated science. Our AEA has all of these robots that we were able to check out for the week. So we got a Sphero ball and we got Dash and Dot. Both of those you can program using that Tickle app. Dash also has a different app that the company actually puts out that you can program too. And there's tons of different things you can do with that. I think if you go to the next one. Yeah, Dash has this EDU spot on their website that is full of lesson plans, different ideas. They have all these different accessories here that you can get to hook onto your Dash. These are really good for some of those elementary kids, like 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. The other robots we got this little bee-bot. He's kind of hard to see, he's hanging off the edge. Anybody like kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, these are awesome ones. You literally just program it right on the robot. So if you want it to go forward 3 times, you just press the forward arrow 3 times. And then if you want it to turn, you press the turn. So that's really good for some of those littler kids. This Probot, this race car, they're made by the same company. The Probot, it's a race car, and it's like the slowest robot I've ever seen in my whole entire life. So the kids were like, oh, it's a race car, and then they got it, and it was like kind of inching along. I think that the model we had, they've actually put out a newer model since then that has rechargeable batteries because those you had to change the batteries all the time. So I think that that has probably improved that. But same kind of thing, you program it right on the car. This one you can program some of like the repeat loops and some of the, do this 4 times instead of having to press the first arrow 4 times.
Before we continue, just some ideas, not only just with teaching coding, is it could be as simple as making your own mats on the floor. Talk about kindergarten, it could be sight words and have the kids program to get to the sight word you say. You could take it all the way to high school and tie it in with vocabulary, instruction, just something in that higher level math skills. You could have math facts or algebra facts, that type of thing, and have it so the kids can not only learn the content, but also use that to tie in with the coding and get their higher level thinking skills.
And going off of that, if any of y'all went to one of the other Purple Ribbon projects was a Scratch project, and she had made this maze, and so the first couple levels you just go through the maze, and then the next level it has like, what's 7 times 2? And you have to guide the person. There's like 3 different options, and you have to guide the little character to the right answer in order to level up. So she's a 5th grader this year, was even putting, and it was so funny, she was like quizzing her little siblings about how to do these math facts and some vocabulary, so I think that was funny.
Yeah. Oops. So again, now I wanted to give you a chance to kind of play around. I know most of you have said you used it, but again, I asked most of you if you had seen the Unplugged section, so I was going to give you a chance. So if you want to, right now you can also go ahead and go to code.org. So if you go to code.org, as I have on here, and it's also in the presentation slide if you're on there too. But if you click to learn, we'll go to code.org. Click to learn.
Is y'all's internet working okay?
I always tell my students, cross your fingers, double cross them, make it'll go fast, maybe it'll help it go faster.
We do what's called kindergarten magic, where you rub your hands together.
I had one of my 4th grade boys stand up and say, do the dance, because he gets up and he starts dancing, and for some reason it starts working.
And while it's loading too, just a quick little idea that I would like to see, now that I'm K-12, I'm expanding into that 512 content area, and with physics, I would like to get the Spiros involved in programming and using them with physics and boats and motorboats, trying to run them in water. They're waterproof, to my understanding, and with little knobbies. And so tying it into our high school and getting them more likely to use them. So I'm excited to challenge myself to go into the high school level and implement more this year.
While he's working on loading this, do you have any questions so far? Not at y'all's quiet. You're hungry.
You don't buy it, I promise.
And so then, if you don't have a question, let's have a shout out. What's one takeaway right now that you're learned, that you're excited to take back with you, or an aha moment? Did anybody have an aha moment?
I like the idea of what you said about the sight words and the math facts, because we've been playing around with Spiros, but that's another way where they can be able to program it. I like that.
Good.
What app have you been using with the Spiros?
Right now we just have just the basic,
Like
I can't even think.
Is it like the joystick one?
Yes.
Okay.
So they're just learning
Yeah.
how to control it.
Okay, yeah, and that's one thing with the Sphero balls. The basic app I think that Sphero actually puts out is just like a joystick. It'd be like you were using like a remote control for like a PS3 or whatever. So if you actually want to program it, you need one of those apps like Tickle.
I think we also have the Spark app, but that's a little harder.
Yeah, they're a little bit harder.
Yeah, we haven't got that far.
Yeah, even Tickle, my 4th graders, that was probably about as low as I went with that.
I also want to give a shout out in the room here is Kay Schmallen. And Kay, I've been lucky enough to work with Kay at AEA 267, and we have what's called TI 12. I'm in year 3 of it, and our district selected a core of us to attend these meetings. And one day, Kay brought in all of the robotics. You remember that day? Yep, and brought them in, and just to play with it, I think is the key. Play with it, and then think, how can I use that tool to tie into my content areas? So that's where the idea of giving the sight words, that type of thing. Geometry with Probot, you can stick a pencil in there and get them to program their shapes for geometry. Is there anything else, Kay? I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay. We, at the agency, I don't know if you knew this or not, we talked to our graphic designer and she created a map for us of the 6x6 squares, and so now we're trying to figure out with a 4-inch top at the top, so you don't have to buy their $60 maps. And so you just take shower curtain liner, the clear stuff, and then stick whatever you want underneath here, so like setting, and go to create your own story, depending on your codes of different settings and your characters and what's going to happen in the story. So it's kind of like create your own story with the Bebop. And switching some things. So yeah, we got those if you need them.
Awesome. And the beauty of our AEAs are the best. Raise your hand if you think they're the best. Yeah. And the beauty of it,
All 3 people raise their hand. Y'all work at AA. I'm on to.
the best part about it is I may not be from the Heartland AEA or the Prairie Lakes, but you can call up these agencies and contact the AEA 267 graphic design, and they will print that and gladly get it to you. So I don't know, I love to brag about the power of our Iowa AEAs. I'm taking my final grad class this semester through Mankato in Minnesota State University, and with Minnesota, they're not familiar with that type of services, and so it's always, tell me more about the AEAs. So just a shout out, they do a fabulous job.
So I have the website up, and kind of going off of what you were saying before with the robots telling stories, one other thing I've done with some of the code resources, if any of you are into app smashing, I've had my kids help build on Scratch, they built a Super Mario level, and then what we did after that, after they programmed that, I have a Makey in my classroom, and so then I had the kids take the Makey, and then we ended up, if you don't know what that is, it's just a basic keyboard. It turns other objects into a keyboard, so I could take a banana, or I could take Play-Doh, I could take other objects and turn them into keys on a keyboard. So what we did was we hooked the Makey up with Scratch, and I had my kids build the level, and then we took if anybody knows the retro Super Nintendo controllers, I have my childhood right here, okay? So what we did was we took Play-Doh and we made a retro Super Nintendo controller out of Play-Doh, and so we hooked it up with the Makey, and then my kids got to play the Scratch level that they built, and so, which was really funny, when the principal came in and she saw my kids up at my school computer with Play-Doh around it. They're like, what are they doing? Like, well, they built a level, and then now they're playing it with the controller that they made. So the whole project was all student created, and then I just kind of sat back and, I showed them how to hook up the Makey to the Play-Doh, but it was kind of a cool site. So anyways, back onto the website, like I said, I clicked on Learn, and they're always changing this website with how it sets up, but like I said, some of the other sections, again, if you're not super familiar, this is a great place. If you go tutorial for beginners and you scroll through here, some of the other things, they have all the resources linked up if you've ever had a chance to play around with it, like they have the Tinker, and I have all these hooked up on my resource page at the very end, which I have a Symbaloo page that I created. I have a Symbaloo page I created for Hour of Code, and so I put all the websites and different things that I have my kids do all in that one spot. So if you want to take a look at any of that, you can access it. But again, under Learn, again, this is all the section for showing people how to get started first off, or even for the teachers and the kids connected to Scratch. And this is kind of where we got into creating the games website. But again, if you just scroll through all this is the part that I've talked to a lot of teachers and they miss, because again, we're so busy. So you go through tutorials for beginners and scroll through all that, but if you go down here, go down even further, again, there's more tutorials. Like I was saying, my kids were talking in JavaScript because we took some of these classes. And again, you can keep scrolling through. They have tons of different resources for you. And again, this is all under the Learn tab that I showed. But there's Code Combat, like I said. So everything is linked. So if you ever forget where you're at, just go to the Learn tab under code.org, and this will basically give you all the resources that I'm talking about, that we talked about, all in one spot, and it gives you nice tutorials on how to use all of this. So, and this is one that I actually just got started with. Like I was saying, building the games with JavaScript. So my kids love that, especially with the ninja characters.
And they're adding new games like all the time.
Yeah.
And the beauty of coding is we're talking in game format. To the students, it's a game. And then what I discovered at Code Cafe is not only are they playing this game, all of a sudden they're having this conversations, that communication piece, and they're teaching each other, and they're using those critical thinking skills. And it's as simple as Elsa, on the snowflake. And at first they're like, oh, I just thought it was a game, and wow, I didn't realize it took the sequencing and the brain power behind that critical thinking. And so it just gives it that rich discussion among your students. And they forget, oh, I'm playing a game.
Yeah. And this was the section, this is down towards the bottom of that Learn tab, so I was all the way up here at the top. I scroll all the way down under Learn, and this is what I was talking about with the unplugged activities, and it's the other unplugged part of our title. But again, if you look, it's just simple activities that teach the kids code. Like here, you take a piece of paper and a marker, and they take the cups, and they give you a problem. It all goes back to the aspect that I love about coding with kids is it teaches them the problem-solving skills. Like you give them a problem, and you tell them to solve it. So this, again, this is without any sort of computer. But again, they have other activities on here too. Like I said, if you just scroll through all these, you can take, again, talking about probability with cards. If I program a certain way of how I shuffle the deck, then I could talk about probability. Like if I keep going forward, but then I go left, what card am I going to draw? And these are some of the things I started out with before, because like I said, at my building, unlike Sarah, I don't have all the access to the computers. Like the computer you saw that my kids were doing Code Combat on was one I got donated. So, so I've stuck more with the unplugged activities. But again, and a lot of the other stuff with the unplugged, they might look more like worksheets, but again, it's still got the problem-solving aspect that you would have with the computer. Just again, if you don't have the resources.
And even if you have 1,000 computers, doing some of these unplugged things first really gets those concepts going.
Yeah.
Because like I said, we think, oh, if I want this to go forward 4 steps, I just type in it should go forward 4 steps. And kids are like, it should just go from here to here. They don't get that it's 4 individual processes moving it that far. So these unplugged things, especially for kids who have never done any of this before, they're really important to get going first.
And this is how I started my kids out. Was I started them on the unplugged activities, and then we gradually, also as I gradually got more resources, then we started moving towards it. And like she said, it was a good starting point because again, most of my kids in my building are low income, poverty kids that don't have a lot of access to these tools anyways. So it was a good way to start with them, to intro them into coding, and then as time progresses and after getting more resources, then we can kind of build up to it.
The biggest aha moment for me with Dr. Ben Schaefer is as he was explaining the unplugged activities, it got me thinking, ooh, the music teacher could tie in some music beats and sequencing with that. And the PE teacher could do some movement and maybe dance between the two. And I thought, with our code, how cool would it be for that whole week, not only do Code Cafe, but get all of our content, interdisciplinary, our specials involved, and make it a really unified event. And so involve your music teachers. They deal with sequencing, your PE teachers.
So again, like I said, all of these resources are under the Learn tab. So again, if I scroll down even farther, I have more tutorials, because this part is all for how to learn how to use it, if we're to use it with the kids, or even teaching the kids how to use it. But again, even if they have tutorials pretty much for everything underneath here, like specific programming languages, like I was saying, I had my kids work on these when we were talking about JavaScript and some of the other ones. So, and again, this is the activity that my kids love the most, is down here at the very end, make your own apps and games, which I even, since getting the admin passwords for all my school iPads that we have now, I've been able to have the kids build the apps and we can load them onto the iPads, which kind of builds up that whole ownership aspect, which the kids love, because then when some of the other kids see the apps that they have on the iPads, they're like, yeah, I built that, kind of thing. So, a lot of great resources throughout this website. And again, this is all under the Learn tab. Now, again, you can either, up at the very top, raise your hand if you've ever seen the curriculum that our code has built. Okay, that's the other thing I wanted to make sure I touched on, because a lot of people, like I said, don't realize all this stuff that's on here, so I wanted to make sure we kind of fleshed it out for you. So there's a couple ways you can get to it. Like I said, and again, they're changing their setup for the website, but at the beginning there should be a Learn tab, and then also a Teach tab at the very top. Yeah. But there's also another, at the very bottom of the Learn tab, it goes to how to teach it. Here. This, again, like I said, over here on the how-to guides. First off, again, you can sign up for a free account. If you haven't already, I'd recommend doing it, because it also gives you even more access to more resources if you create your free account. But again, then also if you want to try and host, like what Sarah was doing, your own kind of hour of code or hour cafe kind of thing, they have all pre-made for you, so you don't have to, you don't have to sweat about it. They have it all pre-made for you, all the promotional papers that you would need, anything that you want to kind of help get other people involved with it. Like even under this, they have a section where it talks about how you can get the local media to even kind of help promote it. So that was one thing we were looking at doing. Sarah and I a couple years ago did it with our local radio station, which then we got it promoted, talking about some of the activities we were doing. But there's also different sections on here talking about how to get the rest of the community involved, which is, again, what we all want to do as educators. We want to get everybody involved in the kids' education and kind of help push things forward. So, like I said, under teaching, again, they love their how-to videos. But again, you have the tutorials, but over here, like I said, here's the how-to guides for educators. You can even do an after-school program. Again, talking about how you can get companies, the whole district involved, or if you're doing school assemblies. This is all, again, under the Teach tab. So again, if you're trying to find how to do this was under Teach. But again, if I scroll down through here, it talks about how to plan things. It walks you through, like if you've never set up an hour of code activity, it shows you all the do's and don'ts kind of a thing. But again, and then it also talks about how to inspire your kids to start using it. And it's got some pretty cool videos from like President Obama, different sports athletes. Kids really love the sports athletes, talking about why they use